Hi, my name is Heinz, and I'm giving you a virtual guided tour through Wohnprojekt Wien today. So, why do I do that? First of all, because I'm pretty proud of our intentional community project that we created in the heart of Vienna, Austria. Secondly, because we have so many people who want to have a guided tour through our house, and we cannot offer it to everybody who would like to, because then my neighbors start complaining because they seem to get the impression that they live in a zoo, which they don't want. So, how does this tour work today? First of all, I show you a little bit about the idea came about to create this co-housing project. Secondly, how we founded the core group, then how we created the project vision for our community, and how we planned and built, and eventually the good life in practice. So I give you then the really tour through the house from the basement up to the rooftop terrace. If you're only interested in the guided tour, so skip the first half of the video and then you're probably about the beginning of the guided tour. So how did it all start? It started with me about 2005 when I did a 1 year sabbatical and a 1 year round the world trip. And it was a life changing experience to me. So this shows you one um, rebuilt Greyhound bus in the north of the United States, where I did a tour with some 20 complete strangers through the great geography and the vast geography of Alaska. And I was really afraid of that, but I thought if I'm not trying it now, I will never do it. So I was ended up with about 20 complete strangers in this small bus of about 10, square meters space for weeks. And I thought, how am I gonna survive this? Soon after we started, I realized something because I found out that living in community has some practical advantages. For instance, you see here somebody washing the dishes. Up on the bus, on the roof of the bus, we had the community kitchen. So I had once in a week the job to do 3 meals a day for my neighbors, for my co travelers, together with one or two others. But the other 6 days in the week, I could just sit down and have a great meal. So that made me aware of one of the advantages of splitting and sharing chores in a household community. So coming back from this tour, I then talked to some of my friends, and in January 2010, I had the vision workshop. We did a dragon dreaming workshop with these people, and we created the foundation of the Wohnprojekt Wien community. Out of these people, those two were the architects, Markus and Katharina. And those two were the facilitators, Ronald and Silke. Unfortunately, Silke has already passed away some years ago. And the others, we were the people who wanted to move into the community. But only 6 out of the 12 founders eventually moved in 4.5 years later in Christmas 2013. When I first started getting information and doing research about how to create the intentional community, I heard of the findings that only approximately 50% of the founders really do move in to the new community. That really frightened me because I thought, oh, heck, I don't want to end up like Moses, who is like traveling 40 years through the desert and then cannot go into the promised land. But eventually, it was the fact that actually only 50% of us moved in. But this was not traumatic, it was just how life goes. Somebody has some other plans, somebody changed his or her mind. So six of us moved in. And then 10 years later, last Christmas, only three out of these six are still living here. And we still have a working community. So that's how life goes. So what did we do on this Dragon Dreaming workshop? We created the project vision that consisted out of four pillars. One pillar was, we said, we want living individually in community. So that means you need both. You need community to be together and realize each other and recognize each other as humans. We need others, so you need community. At the same time, you sometimes need your individuality. So you come home from a hard day of working and you're kind of grumpy, you don't want to talk to anybody. So it should be possible that you just move into your personal space and not be bothered by other people. Second pillar out of four was, we said we wanted to be a nucleus of sustainability, because one of the findings in my 1 year round the world trip, which was sort of in the middle of my life, and as I said, life changing, was that I decided I want to live a um, future sustainable lifestyle, kind of reducing my carbon footprint. So that was also one of our main aims. Third one was creating living spaces, and that was also sort of the job description for the architects, creating living spaces. Later on, when I take you through the house, you will see how our architects interpreted this uh, core or this chore or this aim. And fourth and last but not least, we said we want to dare to live the good life. We don't want to get rid of humans on the planet Earth so planet Earth can thrive. No, we said, how can we have a good life in abundance and still living within the limitations of of our ecosphere, and that's what we wanted to try, with all its ups and downs, obviously. So later on, this are two of my co-founders, and they baked a cake, which you see here, in the form of the future house, and that was to celebrate our winning of the competition that we had to win in order to get this special a piece of land within Vienna that you could only get via a competition by the mayor of Vienna, government of Vienna. So that is the building site. Little me, you see down here, where I'm standing here, we now have our community, big community and conference rooms. Legally, we should have built here about 40 car parking places, and being echoes, and we don't want to drive cars that much because that's not what you need to do to have a sustainable lifestyle. So you need to find other means of transportation. So we found a way to get ourselves out of this compulsory building for the car parking spaces, which I do not go into more details now. But this, which you will see later, is in the midst of Vienna in the second district. Later on, here already on the building side, on this computer graph, you see Christine, my wife, pointing to the flat that she will later have some years later, that you will see soon. Here, I was in the crane with a camera guy from a German TV station, where we flew over the building site. And what you see here is one, two, three, four out of seven stores already built. And if you've ever been to Vienna or you know Vienna, then you know by the side of this one, this is also not ready yet, that in the meantime became the largest, tallest building of Vienna, the DC Tower. And that tells you that the Danube is passing by just behind this a block of building, and that's the Mexico Church. So These are my future neighbors, or were then my future neighbors, and now my present neighbors. Just a few months before we moved in, out of these 12 founders, we enlarged the group up to 70 adults and 30 kids. Here too, some more facts and figures. You see, we built 39 apartments, 33,200 square meters of living space and 700 square meters of common areas. So who is already knowing things about intentional communities knows that 700 square meters out of 3,300, which is more than 20%, is quite a lot. So be aware that you have to finance it, you have to organize it, you have to clean it. So be sure that you need that much. And we built 350 square meters of commercial space. I'll show you later. That is some offices and shops in the ground floor. We decided to have a common property as an association. We could also have built or created a cooperative, but we chose an association, which is specific to the Austrian law. That's not so important, but important is the term common property. We do not individually own our apartment. So if I move out of my apartment here, or if I die, I cannot decide who will get it, and I cannot sell it to anybody, because we found that it's important that the community decides who gets an apartment if one gets vacant. And that is why we chose the common property as the way to do that. We organized ourselves by the means of Socrates. If you have heard about it, you know this is a governance system and a decision-finding system that has become pretty popular within the community, within the community area in the last couple of years, or in the last 10, 15 years. So within Austria, we had been pioneering Socrates in community, and we also made it possible for many others after us. As I already mentioned, we moved in about 70 adults and 35 children. Still about the same figures going up and down, but it sort of stays the same. We founded it in fall 2009. We won this competition in March 2010, where we baked and ate the cake. We started building in December 2011. And then we moved in Christmas 2013, which was quite nice. And that's already more than 10 years ago. And, um, and here you see how it looks when we live here already like over 10 years. You see the same picture that you see at the beginning. This is the building in the midst of Vienna. In the third floor, as I mentioned, is my apartment. And on the rooftop terrace, we have some community space, and there is a park in front of it, which is quite nice. And you have lots of kids playing here. So what common areas did we create in Wohnprojekt Wien? We have a community kitchen. The idea is that you use less individual space for yourself and for your loved ones, because you can outsource functions of your day-to-day living within the community space. And in total, you can reduce the carbon footprint and the usage of space for yourself, and still have life in abundance for the price of communication. Because if I want to have a party in the community kitchen, I cannot just go there because maybe somebody else had the same idea. So I have to see if somebody else booked the community kitchen, and then communicate with them to find out a way of how to do it. We have a children's playroom. We have a spacious bike garage and a workshop place, you will see. We have 2 conference rooms instead of compulsory car parking. I told you that we did not build the car parking in the basement that we should have built legally due to a legal trick that we used. We have our own laundrette, so you don't need 39 washing machines to wash your clothes. Two machines will do the job. You save a lot of material and a lot of resources. We have a food co-op. That means we're buying and sharing organic food from nearby farmers, and we distribute it ourselves. We have a workshop where you can repair your own stuff and or build your own furnitures and do some little repair jobs or bigger ones. We have some three guest apartments in the penthouse that you will see later. We have a common library. That means you don't need to have like meters and meters of bookshelves in your own apartment. You can give your books into the common library, read the books of your neighbors, and also enjoy, and they can also enjoy your books. We have a sauna and a spa in the rooftop terrace. And what you will see pretty soon in one of the pictures is how it looks and how it works. And I just need a sip now. Sorry. And in fact, we have two rooftop terraces. So that's how the building looked just when it was finished. It looks a bit naked still. And what looks like little graveyards here is the raised beds where we do our veggies now. You will see on the picture later. So that's a picture from the backside of the building. The other one you saw just now was the front side. This is a picture from the basement area up, and this is already one of the things that I mentioned earlier, how our architects interpreted the job of doing communicating architectures and building communicating rooms, is, for instance, here they opened up the floor in the ground floor. So if the adults sit in the big conference room once a month and trying to get decisions done, the kids up in the playroom, they sit at the glass or hang at the glass and look down and see how democracy works. Not once every 4 years you make a little cross on a piece of paper. No, it's the adults sitting in a circle trying to get decisions. So here is a split picture you see from the basement level, the sunken garden where the kids play here, up to the to the ground floor where the kids in the playroom, as you saw just now from downstairs, you see how the kids look from upstairs down, and they can look across into the community kitchen. So this is all this visual communication that the architects integrated into the building. So we are still in our tour on the ground floor. This is the conference rooms that we use also for concerts and our meetings. We also rent out these rooms to other organizations and companies, so we get the costs down for our neighbors for living here. So this is when we have parties and concerts. That was a wedding. Some neighbors had their wedding also in the house. The kids are always integrated obviously when we have our parties and celebrations. Or one of our neighbors, she's a professional violinist, and they gave a concert for us, or some jazz concerts are going on. This is the food cup room when the neighbors who were preparing it and moving in the furnitures, and this is how it looked after they moved in the furnitures and shelving. This is our workshop space. As I mentioned, we're still in the ground floor, but here you can do your own workshop thing, and you can do your own repairs and build your furnitures or whatever you would like to do. These are some neighbors when we moved into the workshop area, and this friendly guy here, he is later on he started, and actually they together, he and his wife, they started a nice community in the outskirts of Vienna, which is called Auenweide, also a very nice community. And these are two neighbors after we made the shelvings in the workshop area. So in our ground floor, we also have our car parking. We do have car sharing, and just 2 years ago we bought our first electric car, because first we thought after we moved in we just use up the old cars that people had, and now that the first ones are used up, we bought our first electric vehicle. That's the loading station in the ground floor still. Coming up to the in the basement, coming up to the ground floor, here another view from the front side, and you see this is the park area that you saw before, and here we have a little coffee shop, little grocery store, eco bio food store, and some of our neighbors run this, and that's how it looks. It's obviously very urban, how it looks like in the late afternoon, early evening when people sit in front. These are the neighbors who created this little shop and store. It still is in function even after 10 years, even though it's not a big business case, but they managed to survive. Um, this is our entrance, our main foyer and entrance hall. And what you see in the back here is our Socrates groups, our Socrates circles, visualized like beehives. That's how my neighbors decided to visualize how we work and where we work and what circles we do have in our organization. This is still in the main entrance when we do twice a year our what we call Minga. That's a term that we borrowed from Latin America in the Andes. It is in the old times, it was traditional that in the villages, once or twice a year, the whole village got together, caring for the village, preparing, repairing, and cleaning up, and then having a big party, a big feast. So that's what we do as well. Twice a year, we prepare a whole cleaning. Everybody works together, and after we cleaned it all up, we will have a big party. 10% of the human resources, so 10% of the people who help, are already right from the beginning working in the kitchen, preparing the great meal for the party afterwards. So that's how the foyer looks, or the entrance looks, after it's cleaned up. This is a view into our community kitchen. It's also in the ground floor, so we're still in the ground floor. That's the community kitchen, somebody cooking in here. That's the community kitchen if I also take part in the cooking job. And that's in the kitchen when we eat in like a small group, and that's how it can look when we eat in a big group. That actually was one of the parties after a Minga, where we did a half-day cleanup and repair job in the house. Still in the ground floor, going outside. If the weather is nice, we can also sit outside in front of the kitchen and have our meal outside. What you see in the back there, and we'll see a little more in detail soon, is our raised beds for the veggies. Here you see it. That was, remember the picture when you saw these kind of naked graveyards? This is how it looks now when we do our own veggies. So each and every one of us can have a whole half or a third of one of these raised beds, depending on how many people in this season want to do gardening. That's the bike room, or the bike garage. We decided that every adult and every tall kid, or every kid after 9 or 10 years, should have their own their own bike parking space. So that's why we have 100 spaces for bikes. And here is a workshop where you can repair your bike. What you don't see on the left-hand side here is our 2 cargo bikes that we have in our mobility sharing group. So the kids get dispatched to the kindergarten in the morning, not with a SUV like many others do. We do it by cargo bike, of course. So this is a split picture of our staircase. And what you see here, which is very uncommon in big housings, in apartment blocks, that the roof of the staircase is open, is opened up, so you can communicate over various stories within the house. And that had the advantage, for instance, via during the time of the lockdown in in uh, in 2021, 2022, when we had the lockdown in most of the countries in Europe, through the disease. We could do a party and have a group of musicians in the third floor. They played, and you could hear it in front of each of your apartments. Everybody put a little snack in front of his or her apartment, and you could wear your mask and go through 7 stories and get your 7-story buffet lunch together. So now we are already up in the rooftop, because in the floors from the first to the sixth floor is the individual apartments. And on the rooftop, there is some more community space. I mentioned already, this is the library. Actually, while I'm giving a tour to a group of cooperative housing company from Finland who visited us. So some more views within the library. One of my neighbors using the library. And this is one of the 2 rooftop terraces. This is the one heading northwest. That means you have evening sun here, which is very nice for a sundowner or a barbecue, like we did here on this picture. Also on the rooftop terrace, looking from the outside, is a small kitchen for our guest apartments. So our guests get little apartments like the size of a normal hotel room, double bed and a shower and a toilet, and they share this kitchen together. So the idea is, obviously, you do not need a guest room or a guest bed in your apartment that you have to pay rent for the whole year, and you have to use up the space. You only have to plan and book the guest apartment on the penthouse, on the rooftop terrace, just in right in time when you have some friends or your mother-in-law coming over to visit. And that also saves space, because you, in 39 apartments, you don't need 39 guest rooms. You just share the ones that are on the rooftop terrace. So that's another view on the kitchen, or in the kitchen, when it's sort of cleaned up. This is a little split picture again, a view of how these guest apartments look like. These 2 neighbors we just celebrated because they built the beds in our own workshop in the basement for the guest apartments on the rooftop terrace. This is the big guest apartment. We have 2 small ones and 1 big one. The big one, since many years, we use for refugees. First, we had a family from Syria, Aleppo. They moved into a regular apartment in the meantime after 6 years. And now we have a family of Ukraine living here. So, like the situation in the world is at the moment, unfortunately, it probably will stay a place for refugees. This is a look into our sauna and spa. This is the spa area with the jacuzzi and a glass ceiling where you can see the stars at night, and you can close this door when you withdraw with your loved one. It's not at the moment that clear anymore on this terrace, because here now is our beehive. So we do our city honey ourselves with the bees that we have up here. You'll see later. This is lucky me on the other rooftop terrace. That's the one with the grass. It's the southeast oriented one. So where you have the morning sun, which is very nice for yoga and meditation in the morning. And what is also nice, what you will see just soon, here is that's the library from the outside. That's the sauna from the outside. So here we sometimes in summer put up a screen, and we can do public viewing of like soccer sports games or watching other videos, and everybody's sitting up here with their garden chairs. So this is, as I told you, the terrace behind the sauna now, where we have our bees and small and big uh, uh, beekeepers in the house. On the top of these buildings, on the penthouse, we have our own solar electricity system where we do our own solar power plant. And this is Christina, my wife, having a look at these solar panels. So that's a look at the third floor. This is where my apartment is that I mentioned already. And what can happen is that you come home and that's how it looks in front of your apartment. Because the kids do not only play in the children's playroom, no, they play in the whole house. And this is great because in a big urban metropolis like Vienna, the kids are safe in the whole house. It's like in a village. That's because everybody knows if you can leave your kids alone in the house, because if one of these guys hurt themselves or they have a bleeding knee, somebody will put a band-aid on it and comfort the little kid and bring it back home. So that's very nice for the parents and the kids, of course, as well. So you say, well, it's all just fine, no problems, everybody happy. No, of course, it's not always perfect because it's still, after all, it's humans. So just recently, somebody mailed this picture. There was somebody in the community kitchen leaving a mess and eating yucky junk food, which is not what we prefer, actually. So this is the reality that can also happen. And what can happen is you go to the workshop and you need some tools, and the ones that you need most are just missing now because somebody did not stick to the rule and put it back. So if that is really freaking you out, then you should not consider moving into a community, because it's also important that you find a way to focus on the 97 things which are great and do not focus on the three things that suck at the moment, because every day you will find three or more things that are not perfect. So it depends on where you put your personal focus and depend on how prepared you are in coping with this. So if I'm getting upset with somebody in the house, I can withdraw, sit on my terrace and enjoy peace and freedom, and nobody should disturb me. What can also happen is that you get somebody blackmailing you for sweets in that case. So that can also happen. And that's, of course, also good fun in the house. As I mentioned already, just recently, we celebrated our 10-year anniversary of moving into the house. And I'm still glad, and I regard myself lucky that I am one of the lucky guys that live in this house and in this community. So, some more informations. This is the link to our house, Wohnprojekt Wien. That's the link to my website, all in German only. And the book I wrote about how to create a community is also in German only. But there is lots of good English-speaking resources in the internet. So I hope you enjoyed it and have a nice day.